What's going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and we're going to be going over the UFC card from the Apex this weekend. And I'm going to try to explain this uh, in the way I want it to come across, but I don't think it will, but we'll see what happens. So today, what I'm going to do, as usual, I'm going to go through the fights. We're going to talk about, what I like, who the best DFS plays are, things of that nature. But then when you actually build lineups, you really need to dispense with the idea that these are actually people, okay, or actually athletes, or actually living, breathing creatures. When it comes down to it, what you're trying to do is build lineups that are trying to make money, and lineups are nothing other than your inputs into these computer systems, right? I mean, you're telling the DraftKings computer that, this is my best attempt to rack up points and make money. And we're putting these entry files, these little entry numbers into the DraftKings system. And then based on whatever happens in these fights, the DraftKings system just puts out these points and then allocates money to the people with the most points. I mean, the reason why I bring this up is I know it's kind of like the evil empire to think this way, but if you think too much of these DraftKings entries as actual athletes and sports and people and things like that, your biases will really start to take over. I mean, you really need to think about these things almost like, you remember, the scene at the end of like the Matrix where Keanu Reeves is like not even seeing like people anymore. They're just like little like dots and dashes and numbers and 0 1 1s. Okay. That's the way you really need to think about these things. This idea that, something can always happen or something that it can never happen is something that you really shouldn't be training your brain to think of. There's always room for error, and there's always room for percentages. And if one person is likely to win 70% of the time, people sometimes believe that that's 100, and it's just not. And if you have a fighter that you think that, oh, he's not beating this other guy, it's not that he's not beating them, because there's always a chance that he can beat them. The only question is, does he beat them often enough, given how the scoring system breaks down, given what the salary is, given how many other people are playing that fighter, right? Uh, to justify playing him in these types of contests. So for this video, I am going to talk about the fighters, okay? But you can even hear in my voice when I go through these guys that I'm speaking about them in terms of their fighting ability and what I think can happen in the fight. But when it comes down to actually putting the lineups in, you really have to trust kind of the percentages and the numbers more than anything else. So that's why I try to do a lineup construction video separately, where I can not think about actually who these fighters are, and just think about how those fighters kind of translate into these data points that go into my lineups. Um, it's probably about 10% of what I wanted to get into, but I think I've already lost like 95% of you. So we're going to stop there as far as that preview goes, and then just kind of get into the fights here, and hopefully, like 1% of you learn from that. Uh, Probably not, though. I probably did a terrible job explaining, but we'll see. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the fight that's the annoying one. So Jerry Basharat was supposed to fight Saeed Margamedov, and again, the way DraftKings pricing works, they have to price these things before, like a week before, pretty much. And then you run the risk of this happening where fighters pull out and get replaced, and the matchup is no longer representative of the odds of the previous matchup. And unfortunately, the way it works is DraftKings can't change the pricing, so you're kind of stuck with this anomaly sometimes. And this is a good example. So Jared Basharat was going to be about a small favorite over Saeed, and and he's priced accordingly at 8,300. But now he's been replaced. Saeed is dropped out, and he's been replaced by Gianni Marquez, who's not bad, but um early indications, and again, this is already Friday, is that Basharat's going to be like a minus 600, 700 favorite. So you have this incredible pricing dilemma where you have this guy priced as a 6-5 favorite, but he's really a minus 700 favorite. So right off the bat, like from a theoretical perspective, like this is a free square, you know, it's just a total lock in the math world. Okay. If the only goal was to just, come up with the lineup that scores the most points, the most amount of times. It's not exactly that easy, because, if everybody's going to do it, then maybe we should try to fade it and try to get leverage against it just in case he doesn't win. Because remember, here's the thing to think about. I mean, he's a minus, say, 600 favorite, big adjusted. Now, you know what that means? Well, I'll tell you what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean he's going to win. It doesn't mean he's going to win all the time. And in my world, in the math world that I live in, like he's only going to win like 85% of the time. And I say only, that's not a lot. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, more to the point, Vasquez is going to win this fight 15% of the time, whether you believe it or not. Okay. If we're going to accept that these money lines are somewhat representative of actual odds to winning, the fact is that Basharat is only going to win 85% of the time. Now, how often are his wins going to be optimal? Like, how often are his wins going to be enough to take down the contest? That is something that is sort of open for debate here, because Basharat, as you see, I'll pull up his game logs. Forget the fact that he's coming off of 2 straight losses, and then this no decision here. Even in his wins, he hasn't really scored that well. I mean, 98, 83, 65 here. I promise you that these 2 results, if he scores like 83 or 65, that's not going to be good enough. I don't promise you that, but it's likely it's not going to be good enough. And I could even argue that given I don't know, given his ownership, maybe 98's not going to be good. It probably will be, just because the nature of this card is, I think, very low scoring. But so the point is that even if he wins, which is probably going to happen 85% of the time, he's probably only going to be optimal like 80% of those, maybe 70% of those times. So net, he probably is only optimal about 55, 60% of the time. And then we have to think about how often people are going to play him. Now, again, I haven't done my ownership projections yet. I won't probably do that till tomorrow morning. But I'd have to believe that in most contests, he's going to be at least 65% owned. So I really think that at best, he's probably a break-even play, like given ownership and all the other things that I talked about. Now, not that he's a bad play, but he's not like a great play. I think he's just kind of like, just an okay play. So if you end up getting under the field, which again could be 50%, right? On Basharat, I don't think that's the worst idea in the world. Now, in low risk contests, such as single entry and things like that, it's going to be difficult to fade this spot. But in those big tournaments where you're looking for leverage and trying to get somewhat unique, I think it's reasonable to fade him and even play the other side. Like, even though we don't even have the price yet on Marquez, it's probably going to come in with like 6,700 or something like that, right? At a 15% winning chance. So here's a question I ask you. If he's going to win 15% of the time, how often is he optimal? Like, when he wins, how often is he in the optimal lineup? And uh, I would say about 90% of the time. Okay. It's going to be very difficult for a $6,800 fighter that wins to not make the optimal, especially considering that 70% of the other people in the contest have played directly against him. So I would argue that when these prices come out, that Marquez is going to be just as good of a play as Basharat. So what I would probably recommend in this situation is to play kind of like market weight on these guys. In other words, you could play 85% Basharat and 15% what's his name? Uh Marquez, or you could kind of scale down just a little bit. But I would definitely play like uh as much Marquez as I did Bashra. Let's put it that way. So if you want to go 50% Bashra, and when I say as much, I mean relative to the winning chances. So I'd say 50% Bashra, 10%, you know, Marcus. I think that makes reasonable sense. And I think you'd also, listen, if you want to just go for it, you play 85% Bashra, 15%. That's fine. But I don't think that you should ignore the Marquez side of this equation. Okay. That's not the first fight of the night, but it's the first fight we definitely need to talk about. All right, so now we have what could be could be kind of a fiesta here. Claudia Segula uh versus Priscilla Cachoeira. And Cachoeira, like her fights always deliver, whether she wins or loses. In her wins, she scores quite a bit, 108, 115. This one wasn't so great, 87. This one wasn't so great either, 76. Um, but in her losses, she also delivers on the other side. Like she gave up, 120 points to Jocelyn Edwards. She gave up something like 140 to Jasmine Jasudavicius, probably similarly to Miranda Maverick. Um, so her fights sort of deliver, but the only thing is that um, in the fights where she loses and the fights deliver, it's because the opponent usually is out grappling her. Like someone like Maverick or Jazz Davicius. Jocelyn Edwards, that was a little bit different. She got knocked down in that one. But I mean, Claudia Segula, she's certainly nothing special. Okay. Um, Although, I mean, we'll take a look at her history here. I mean, for a female fighter, she certainly has a lot of finishes. She got KO'd by Melissa Mullins. She had a KO here, a couple of KOs. I don't know. I worry that this fight's going to be highly owned because of Priscilla Cachoeira like always has this reputation for delivering. So why don't we go straight to the odds board here? Let's just see what it says. So inside the distance lines here, we have, let's see, it's kind of spinning a little bit. Pause this while this updates, I guess. Sorry. So Cachoeira here is inside the distance is plus 220 or plus 240, and that's okay. That's pretty good. At her price, plus 240 inside the distance, 7,600 is extraordinarily strong. So yeah, I mean it's definitely a very, very good, to say the least. And you look at Segula inside, I mean, her inside the distance line is worse. So uh if anybody if anybody here, it would probably be Segula. The only thing I would say though is that, and this is what we're gonna have to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about a little bit about now with lineup construction. So I think Cachoeira at 7,600 is going to be a pretty popular underdog, right? I mean, she does have good metrics at that price, and you're going to be looking for upside here. Especially if people are going to have to play Basharat there. So one of the things that I like doing, or at least conceptualizing, is figuring out who kind of like the chalkier or plays are based on metrics, and seeing if you just can't find any kind of a case to play the other side. So and the reason I mention it that way is the way leverage works in DFS. If you're really looking for kind of like DFS nirvana, is to find a play that is awesome. I mean, that is great. all the metrics are good, good inside the distance line or whatever sport, whatever translates to that in a particular sport, and have it be so obvious that everybody can see it. And then, as long as the other side is moderately reasonable, play that side. That is the way you get very, very strong leverage especially in these sports when you have one versus the other. So even though Segula is not, does her metrics aren't that great, the fact that Cachoeira is going to be sort of a popular underdog, it can provide some pretty cool leverage to play Segula here. And who knows, maybe, I mean, you look at Segula's record here. I mean, she does have a couple of submissions on a record, right? One, two, right? So maybe she has some grappling somehow. And maybe she knows how to read the program, so to speak, and get a bunch of takedowns. Maybe she has more upside than we're giving credit to. So I think that this is a pretty sneaky bit of leverage here. So what that means, I guess, is that this first fight of the night, you probably want to have a lot of exposure to. But again, don't sell out on just the Cachoeira side. I think that Segula is going to be probably some pretty good leverage. All right, Jacob Wicklax against Muin Gafarov, and I've been sold this idea that Wicklack is going to be completely selling out for submissions, that he's really going to be going for takedowns and things like that. I mean, I guess given this whole history here, submission, 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 I guess that makes some sense here. So, in the DFS world, that's what you want. I mean, you want guys that are going to be going for takedowns so that yes, if they finish, that's great, but if they don't, they still have a good ceiling. And this is a perfect example of that. So Wicklack, I think, is a very, very strong play here. Um, we'll look at the inside the distance lines, and we'll just kind of take a look at this. I don't think you're going to see too healthy of an inside the distance line of either of these guys. No, they're both like plus 300-ish inside the distance. Um, what I will say though is again, I think that Gafarov could be a decent leverage play here because I think isn't everybody going to see what I see? I mean, again, I haven't done my inside the distance, my ownership projections yet, but I have a feeling that the combination of Basharat, Wicklack, and one other guy we're going to get to later is going to be a very popular um, combination. So if that's the case, I mean, Gavrov looks a little fishy here, but maybe he looks just fishy enough to get me some leverage here. If you're going to play Basharat, you're going to have to try to do, some funky stuff in the rest of your lineups. So I think that Gafarov again is going to be one of the lower owned guys, and at 8,200, it's a price tag that you have to respect. So those are my thoughts there. All right, next one, Wang Kong versus Eduardo Mora. Kong at 9,200, I doubt is going to look good here. At 9,200, you're going to really need an inside the distance line of minus 110 unless you have some kind of grappling upside. So first, you look at the inside the distance line; it's very poor on plus 240. So on straight finishing ability, Wang is a very, very poor play. And as far as the grappling upside goes, if anybody's going to have the grappling upside, is going to be Mora. I mean, Mora's fighting, a very well trained kickboxer. I mean, if Mora's smart at all, and she's going to be going for takedowns. And she's done this before, she's gotten submissions, she's going to be going for these takedowns here. And so I think that Wang is going to be, it's very difficult for her to get there, unless somehow she can just get a first round knockout. I can't imagine her being optimal here. I think if anybody, again, is somebody you want to play here, that would be Mora. Because again, so if Mora wins, it's going to probably be because she got a bunch of these takedowns, and who knows, maybe she's that much better on the mat that she can sub her. If you get Mora with a takedown or two in the first round and a sub, that's the end of the slate, right? So I think Mora is a very strong play here. There's also variations, by the way, where Mora gets a couple of takedowns and loses and wins and gets the slate anyway. Not very likely in a 13 fight card, especially with the value that we have, but certainly something to consider. So I think Mora is certainly the preferred play in this fight. And I don't really like the con side at all. Ketlin Souza versus Bruna Brazil. Another women's fight, and this one is in the mid range. Um, this one I don't think is going to be too grappling heavy either way. It feels like a pretty, standard women's MMA fight with, some striking, not a lot of upside, which rates to be very poor from a DFS perspective. I mean, we'll take a look at the inside the distance line here and we'll see. I mean, you have Brazil inside is plus like a 900, Souza plus like a 700. I mean, like this fight is just everything that you don't want to see in DFS. It's not too much grappling and not a lot of finishing. So for me, fight's probably going to be just a fade. Okay, Nikolai Veteretennikov versus Nico Price. This is pretty low level. Well, I shouldn't say low level. Well, Nico Price used to not be low level, but he's just kind of old now. He's older and his chin is gone. He's a little frail, whatever. But this Nikolai Veretennikov is pretty bad, I have to say. Um, so, I mean, this is one of those cases where you'd like to think that Veretennikov could, because he's younger and whatever, and Price is kind of done, that he could take care of business here. But I don't know. Let's take a look at the inside the distance line, though. I mean, the inside the distance line is actually pretty good for him. I mean, it's very good for him at minus 150. So I don't know. This is a rough click, I have to say. I mean, look what he does here. He's never knocked anybody out. You know what I mean? Like, how am I doing this? Let's take a look at his record here. I mean, loss, split decision, loss, loss. All right, fine. He's got two KOs here, I suppose. Ashley Reese. Do I remember that name? Did he play? Did he come into the UFC? No, he didn't. I thought he did. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess he used to have some finishes back here. Does he have enough in him to beat Nico Price? I mean, I suppose. Got KO'd by Austin Vanderford, and I don't know, man. I kind of don't want to do this, I have to say. And again, this is my biases coming in, right? I mean, you look at the numbers, and he's minus 150 inside, and he's only 8,900. You're supposed to play this, but and then you look at Nico Price, right? What's he done? Two losses and then a win over, Hirono. But can he do this? Could this Price have this in him? 5 takedowns? That would be so sick if Price can actually pull this off. Well, I'll put it to you this way. I mean, if Veretenikov's metrics look like this, people are going to play him. Um, Maybe get some leverage here. Let me see what else is Price done. I mean, he's not expected to do anything against Sabatini. Robbie Lawler got KO'd but first round in this fight. Oh my God. He really hasn't done anything in like a long time. Oh, I don't think I can do it. So anyway, yeah, Veretenikov's inside the distance line is very strong. I guess you're supposed to play him, but I just, it's feeling pretty bad. So this is why, again, we try to dispense with the ideas of what these people are and just kind of look at the numbers. Why don't I just look at the numbers and say, okay, he's minus 150 to win. Inside the distance is 8,900, and let's play it. All right. Speaking of which, Alex Morono, just talked about him against Danny Donchenko. Um, he's 9,600, Donchenko. So for him to win, he's going to need either or both, like a first round finish and either a knockdown or two or some takedowns. Okay. It's just you just can't get there at 9,600 otherwise. Um, we'll take a look at his inside the distance. I'm sure he's minus 300 inside the distance. We'll just take a look at it. Um, I mean, minus 300 inside. What is he in the first round? I mean, even in the first round, he's almost a pick 'em, but he's not a favorite. I mean, he's not exactly a favorite. So if he's not even favored to win in the first round, that means, you know what that means? He's not favored to be up, right? And what's his ownership going to be? 35%, maybe? So he's about 30, I would say about 35% to be optimal, maybe less. So he's just kind of a break-even play, I think. Let's see. Does he have any takedowns? It's just not, he's not going to take this dude down. I mean, if anything, like Morono would be going for takedowns. I mean, I really doubt that he's going to go for takedowns here. He's going to try to knock his head off. So I think he's fine. Don't think it's great. Uh, 9,600 is kind of tough price to pay. But listen, if you get some of this other stuff home, if you could play more, get her to win, maybe you play Cachoeira, then you could get Doncheko in pretty easily. We haven't even talked about the main event, you know what I mean? So I think because Basharat is such a easy click at 8,300, I also think that the Donchenko is probably going to be sort of popular. So I don't know. I think he's fine. Nothing, I'm not going to just lock him in or anything like that. And Morono, I think, unfortunately, isn't going to win enough. Just see this again. I mean, he's minus, what is he, 800 to win? I mean, he's the same as the other guy. Okay, so you know what he does? You know what this means? It means he wins 15% of the time, Morono. How good is that? I mean, is that bad? If I and if Morono wins, let's put it to you another way. If Morono wins, how often is he optimal? No? Oh, this is terrible. I mean, maybe he's not even optimal all the time. I mean, see, here's the difference. I think he's a very similar play to Marquez. The only difference is Marquez is going to get the direct leverage over someone who's 70% owns, where Morono's direct leverage against someone who's 35. So that's the difference. Dustin Jacoby versus Julius Walker. Jacoby 8,700, Julius Walker 7,500. Do you have a striker versus grappler matchup here? And usually in those cases, all else being equal, you're supposed to side with the grappler, just because again, the scoring system just really favors those types of fighters. But let's just see. Let's first take a look at Justin Jacoby, and see if his inside the distance line is justified. To have you play him 8,700, and you look at it, Jacoby inside is plus 160. I mean, that's not great, at 8,700. It's not the worst, but it's just not great. So I think that he's just kind of a mediocre play. I kind of like the Walker side though here. He's first of all, he does have a little bit of negative bias against him because his last fight against Cachoeira was pretty bad, I have to say. But I mean, he's minus 700. People really thought he was going to put him away, but he didn't. But it's not like he wasn't trying. So the point is that his path is clear, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to go down it. And that's something you always have to consider with these grapplers is it's not enough to say, okay, if he grapples, it's not so much to say he's got a grappling advantage. You have to make sure that he knows to attempt it. So I do think that he is going to try to do this. And if he does win, it's going to come with a lot of points. So I think that Walker is definitely a very, very strong grappling play. So I like Walker here more than the Jacoby stuff. Fareed Basharat versus John Masamoto. Uh, 9,000 versus 7,200. Let's look at the money line here. Fareed is minus 320, so this is reasonable. So here you take a look at the inside the distance line. It's probably not going to be very good because, as you'll see, it's like plus 440, and the reason why is because Basharat is not really a finisher. He's gonna try to grapple the crap out of him, right? Like 2 takedowns, 4 takedowns, 5 takedowns, 2 takedowns, 3 takedowns, and all this control time. But it's usually not going to come with a finish. So for you to play him, I mean, you're gonna need everything to go your way. And here's the thing: he doesn't score that well. He just doesn't. And you know, even in these fights with all these takedowns, he didn't really try to inflict any damage at all. Um, so for me, this is a tough click. I mean, not to mention Matsumoto is not bad. I mean, you know what I mean? He's a very good fighter. So I'm kind of playing this fight to bust. Like I said, I'm not going to play the Matsumoto side really. I just don't think he wins often enough. And the thing is that he's going to have to fight off like all these takedowns, I think, to stay competitive here. So I think the most likely result is Basharat wins and just doesn't cover, so to speak. So I'm going to probably fade this one to some degree. Okay, the next two fights I'm not fading. Let's start with Mikhail Oleksiejczuk versus what's his name, first name? Marc-Andre Barrio. I mean, this fight is just a car crash. I mean, you're just gonna have to play this one. You look at the inside the distance line and you see Oleksiejczuk is gonna be minus 300 probably. I mean, minus 250 inside, and he's gonna go right after this. I bet you he's almost minus 110 in the first round. Yeah, I mean, this is and Barrios going to give him the fight he wants. So Barrios not backing down from anybody. So for me, I mean, this is the best play on the board. Is always Achum. He's not going to get takedowns really, but I think that the combination of knockdowns and volume. I mean, he could unload a whole bunch of strikes on him before he knocks him out. I think that this is a very like super strong play. Now I'm not going to be the only one to think this. I think it's going to be very popular. So I think that Barrialt is also reasonable. He's gonna bring the heat. And here's the thing: like unlike some of these other guys we talked about, like Morono and Vasquez, whatever, if Barrio wins, he's optimal, okay, because he's going to score the F out of this fight. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to win some boring decision under any circumstances. So I think this fight is almost 100%. I think you have to play both sides of this just in case. And I would play it market weight. I'd play something like 75% always Chuck, 25% Barrio, and just kind of rock the house. I just don't know how this fight fails. I really don't. Now, again, I kind of, you know, uh, contradicted my own thesis as I talked about this earlier. Ooh, I'm not recording. I didn't pause this, right? Yeah, um, yes, there are going to be times where the fight busts. I mean, he doesn't, you look at the inside the distance line here. Let's take a look. Inside the distance in general is like, 80%, right? Well, that means 20% of the time the fight does bust. So that's fair enough. So what I could do is I could play it for the 80% of the time that it doesn't, So I'll play 60%, always A Chuck, 20% burial, something like that. Maybe 60-20 or 65-15, something like that. I think that's pretty reasonable. All right. Here's another one which I'm not fading. For different reasons. So Jalton Almeida versus Kuniev. You know, Jalton Almeida is going to be going for takedowns. He's got an incredible amount of upside when he gets these takedowns. Uh, he could score a ton. And we'll tell if you don't believe me, and I'll pull this up here. I mean, he's got 135, 125, 120. I mean, these are big boy scores, you know? And this fight here, I mean, he had 9 takedowns against Curtis Blades. I mean, is that real? Um, so I mean, he's gonna get a bunch of takedowns, and um, at 8,500, he's in his wins. He just has too high of a ceiling. I mean, to me, alongside of Oleg Zaychuk, this is like the best play on the slate. To the point where I think that this combination, and we haven't gotten to the main event yet, but the combination of Almeida, Zaychuk, and Basharat, I mean, this in and of itself is going to be just hyper popular. So, so what does that mean? What it means is, as I was alluding to before, you have to close your eyes, say duck, and play some Kuniev. Okay. Um, his metrics, I guess they're not bad. Let's see, it's 7,700. Let's see. Kuniev inside the distance. Can't be that bad, right? That's not bad. Plus three, ooh, plus 320. Yikes. That's not even that good. And you can see variations where he just fights off takedowns and gets some ugly win by decision. But the problem is it just doesn't matter because Jalton Almeida is gonna be so popular that you're just gonna have to close your eyes and try it, and try some Kuniev. This is gonna be another, you know, kind of cool leverage play. So like to keep track of these, you play something like Kuniev and then well, Burial, obviously. Burial, Claudia. This is like kind of ugly, right? And these are the guys that we're looking at here. And then you did that. Maybe you could even get away with playing Basher. So then you'll have 3 decent pieces of leverage there, and then you could just go play a couple of high priced guys. You want. Okay, now to Kyoichi Horiguchi versus Amir Albazi. How what you call it? Horiguchi was given very little respect in his last fight. He was coming off, listen, a big layoff, in the UFC. But he came back like it was like he had missed a beat, and he just dispensed with Bekov. He just destroyed him. But now, I mean, he's 9,300. You know what I mean? So 9,300 against a dude that's got wins. I mean, against good wins. I mean, you look at Albazi here. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, like, okay, he lost to Moreno, but these are all very, very good wins, I have to say. And believe what you want about the split here. The fact that he was minus 110 against Kai Kara France, I mean, listen, this is a I don't want to say it this way. This is a bad line. I mean, I'm telling you, and this is not my place to say because I'm not really a bettor, really. This line stinks. I mean, like if these guys fought last week, what would this be? I mean, Albazi, Horiguchi was an underdog to Ulanbekov, and I bet you that Albazi would probably be a favorite over. I don't know. I think Albazi would have been probably minus, I don't know, 300. I don't know. So, or maybe not, maybe minus 300, maybe minus 150, minus 160. So I don't like this at all. So I'm going to find it very difficult to play to play him in spite of that. But again, Sheets, what do you know about odds? So what do you know about MMA? So let's take a look at just the numbers here. We have Haraguchi inside the distance is plus 240, so he's a terrible play anyway. And he's not going to out grapple Albazi and takedown. So uh, the problem is I don't know how popular he's going to be. So I don't know what kind of leverage I'm going to get by playing Albazi. Um, but 6,900. I mean, if he wins, how does he win without scoring takedowns? So I kind of like it. I have to say, I have to like it. And then we get to the main event, and it's so funny. We've talked about some very, very good plays without even talking about the main event, which means to me that this is actually not the worst GPP card after all. Because, okay, the way I kind of look at GPP cards, whether they're good or not, is number one, not number one, but one of them is how many fights there are. So 13, that's not bad. Second thing is there a big piece of chalk that's tough to fade? And unfortunately, yes. Okay, the Bachelorette. But the other thing is the main event a lock? I don't know. I mean, Batista versus Oliveira. First of all, it's not favored to finish. Okay. And I think that there are lots of variations where this fight makes it the distance without a huge score. Now, again, these guys are both pretty active. Um, so I do think the winner's probably going to score 100. So yeah, okay. That's the thing about these 5 round fights. It's so hard to project for less. I mean, Volkanovski last week, I mean, he got there at 8,700, but that was like absolute like DFS floor. You know what I mean? Like he got no takedowns and was very, very measured like the whole fight. I mean, that's really like the lowest you could score in a 5 round fight. I mean, unless you're Izzy, you know what I mean? Like these types of guys. So I don't think that that's in the cards this week. I do think the winner of this is just going to have to score 100. I think that Oliveira maybe he's got more finishing upside, maybe. So I don't know. I think this fight is yes, it's tough to fade. I think you should probably play market weight of it. Maybe 60% of the exposure should go to Batista, 40% should go to Oliveira. But I don't think you need to go lock it in. So I would reduce this a little bit. Maybe something like 45 Batista, 30 Oliveira, something like that. Because we've talked about this card, and there are things you can do. Like for example, let's say I don't want to play the main and I don't want to play Basharat, just for kicks. Okay. Let's start with some of other these other plays that we talked about here. Let's say that we don't want to play the main or Basharat, but we don't want to be too brutal about everything else. I mean, you could even play like this. You could even play like Danchenko. Where's Cachoeira? Cachoeira. And then you could play the main event if you want. I mean, even something like this, if you, yeah, but I don't know. This one doesn't play the main of this one doesn't play Basharat, but certainly plays the main event. But it does not 300 on the table. Maybe you get away with this. And then instead of this, oh, you want something fun? What if you played something like what if you did something like this? Oh, this one would be fun. How about like that? And if you get away with this, I mean, you're a freaking hero. And I'm not saying play this exact lineup, but remember what the themes here. Gafarov, good bit of leverage. Olazechuk, strong play. Danchenko, strong play. Walker, strong play. Maybe not that highly owned. Segula, decent leverage here. Mora, pretty low owned. I probably would want to play though another piece of leverage like a Kuniev instead. maybe something like that. The 500 on the table. So my point is that you can do this on this card. You don't have to play Basharat, Batista, Almeida. You know what I mean? In big GPPs. Okay, that was pretty in depth, I think, longer than I usually go, especially without all the salaries being done. Hopefully that helped on a lot of planes, I guess. And it's gonna do it. Good luck.